Good morning and welcome to Legacy After the Locker Room. I'm Kayla Bradham, your host, coming in a little bit early this morning because we are fortunate and blessed to be here today with two-time WNBA champion, Miss Yolanda Moore. Good morning, Yolanda.
Good morning to you, Kayla. How are you?
I am fabulous, and I am so grateful to share your story and what you are doing, especially for women and girls in sport. But not only that, for athletes in general, because you have a powerful and inspiring message. We're going to come back to it just a little bit later in the show, but right behind you, you will win if you don't quit. And that is the message for today. So I'm so grateful you got that right up over your head, and it means so much to me. Thank you. Yolanda, tell us how you got started playing basketball. Little girl dribbling up and down the court. What'd you do?
Well, actually, I got started playing basketball. One of my classmates, it was in third grade. One of my classmates, well, let me give you the backstory. I'm from a really small town in Mississippi. We have one elementary school, one middle school, and one high school. So, it was you play sports because there was really nothing else to do. And so one of my classmates in third grade, her dad was the middle school basketball coach. And so he was also our PE coach. And because he would go in between schools. And so he would allow us to like practice with the team. We didn't really know what we were doing, but we were out there, right? And so during games, we had a uniform and we would sit on the end of the bench because I was taller, I was one of the taller kids. So I mean, we would get in the game when it was like the game was so far beyond us being able to mess it up. Like he would put us in, when we were like winning by 30 and it's like 10 seconds left to go on the clock. So he would put us out there. And it was fun. That's all I can say. It was just fun. And then he created this, I guess it would be the equivalent of like a little dribblers program now. So every Saturday, we would like during the week, we would do fundamental skills for like 30 minutes. That was our practice. And on Saturdays, we would travel to a little neighboring town and we would play competition. I was terrible. Okay. I was terrible when I first started. My coach told me when he was giving a speech later on my behalf, he said, Yolanda, you were the worst basketball player that I had ever seen. But he said, but you were tall, you had long arms, you had big feet, and you had big hands. So I knew that you were going to grow into your body. And so, but I just stuck with it. And it gave me a chance to travel. So I was able to see other parts of the world that, we just couldn't afford to see otherwise. And I just kind of stuck with it. And I grew up, I'm the youngest of six, but I grew up like an only child because they're all older than me. And so it was really lonely. I didn't really have a whole lot of, that interaction with your siblings and things like that, and just trying to find your identity. So basketball really gave me the confidence that I was looking for. It's where I found my identity. It was just so much freedom when I was on the basketball court. I mean, I loved everything about the game. I love being in the gym. I love the basketball. I love the way that the ball felt in my hands. I love the sound that my sneakers made on the court, like the whistles, all of the noise that is associated with being in the atmosphere of a game. Like that was just like music. It was like everything to me. And so I just became better at it. And then when I realized that it could take me to college and then potentially back then overseas, we're going to do. And I just stuck with it and became, just started to develop and found my lane in the sport and wanted to be the best.
I think that's so encouraging. And you're right. That high school basketball took you to Ole Miss.
Yeah, it sure
and
did.
You, SEC legend, Ole Miss Hall of Fame. What was that experience like? We're seeing everything in the NCAA this year with the disparity between the men and the women. I can only imagine. You and I are the same age. I can only imagine it was worse when we were in college. Can you tell us about that?
I don't. It's just a different time now because everything is so out there with social media. So you have access to behind the scenes. And these kids, these players today, I tip my hat to them. I love them. I love their tenacity. I love their fight. I love the fact that they're intelligent enough to know what is due them, not anything excess, but this is based on this law. This is what is due us. And we're going to fight because we put the same amount of time, same amount of energy, same amount of effort. No, we may not bring in the money that the men's sport bring in, but that does not negate the validity of our sport and the competitiveness and the opportunities that it affords us as women. And so back then, I mean, those issues weren't issues because we were just so happy to have the opportunity to play, right? Like we were happy to have the scholarship. I couldn't have gone to Ole Miss without that basketball scholarship. I was smart and I probably could have gotten, some academic money, but it wouldn't have covered everything. You know what I mean? And I wouldn't have got to travel because of Ole Miss. I got to travel to different parts of the world that I never would have seen and got to meet people from different parts of the state, different parts of the country, but just we played for the love of the game. And that's not to say that these women and these young men don't play for the love of the game, but we were playing and fighting in the way that we knew how to fight, in the way that we knew how to play, to be able for them to have the platform and have the freedom to speak and fight for what is due them. And I'm so grateful for it. But my experience at Ole Miss was, it was awesome. It was back in the early 90s. So we didn't have all the bells and whistles. You legit played for the pure love of the game, and so grateful for the opportunity to have a scholarship to go and play basketball. Like there were kids we lived in the dorms where there were kids who had to work 2 and 3 jobs and go to class. And yeah, it was hard for us. I'm not negating that. But it was still hard. We missed out on a lot. We missed out on Thanksgiving. We missed out on Christmases. We couldn't do internships. It wasn't a whole lot of time for socializing, even though we made time to socialize. But it's like we were so honed in because that was our job. But we were so grateful for it. I speak for myself. I was so grateful for it. I was so grateful for what the game had done for me and just the opportunities and how it helped develop me as a person, as a woman. And so I gave it everything that I have. And I would say that that's the one thing that kind of, as a coach, it frustrated me, was because kids felt like they were owed that opportunity. You have a lot of kids who feel like because I can play and you're recruiting me or whatever, like I'm owed this, or I don't have to practice hard. I don't have to give my all. And I'm like, it can be taken away in an instant. And then what are you left with? Right. So that's the only thing that I just don't like, the attitude of a lot of kids, especially the younger ones, that they have towards the game. Basketball will give you whatever you give it. Like it gives you, it's like anything else. What you're going to get out of it, whatever you put into it. But you can't have this entitled attitude or ungrateful attitude, because it can be taken away. And I experienced that, with the knee injuries and things like that. So, yeah, you asked how I got to Ole Miss. It was because, at 8 years old, somebody put a basketball in my hand and put me out there on the court. And it was literally like a love at first sight kind of thing, like an instant love affair.
I think that's beautiful. And was it that stick-to-itiveness and that attitude that got you to the Houston Comets?
It was that I didn't have Comets. So my freshman year of college, I had knee surgery. I tore my meniscus in my right knee, I believe it was. And then shortly after I had surgery, I found out I was pregnant at 18. So I had a kid my freshman year of college. And then I came back my sophomore year. And then my junior year, I had another knee surgery. I tore my meniscus in my left knee. Then my senior year, at the end of my senior year, I tore my meniscus in my right knee again. And then I had another kid. I had another kid at the end of my senior year before I went to the WNBA. So I didn't have anything else besides basketball. So I didn't have any other options. So it was a lack of, I won't say, I had no choice. Like I couldn't quit. Like there was nothing else. I knew that there was nothing else for me to go back to. There was no, my mom wasn't rich. You know, there was nothing for me to go back to. And despite all of the challenges, I just put my head down. I didn't get caught up in, oh my gosh, why does this keep happening to me? Some people have an injury and they just can't recover mentally from the fact that they were injured. I didn't allow myself to sit in that. I focused on, okay, well, I can't waste time asking or crying about why it happened. I need to find out, what do I need to do to get back on the court? Because that's where I need to be. That's where I belong. I can't do anything sitting here moping around. Okay, I need to rehab. I need to do extra. So if I have, 10 leg lifts, I'm going to try to do 20. If I got 20 minutes on the bike, I'm going to try to do an extra 20. I'm doing whatever I can to get myself back into the position where I can play, because that's all I had.
And Yolanda, I think you're speaking about something that's vitally important for anybody watching the live stream right now or later on who will catch the download of the podcast. Senior in college, 2 babies, deck is stacked, tons of injuries, right?
Right.
The deck is stacked against you. I make no apologies. I'm a single mom with 8 children. I love my life. My life is crazy hectic, amazingly beautiful. I feel so blessed. But it's the same thing. You keep your head down and you get through that day. You sleep hard at night, right?
Right.
But that message, Yolanda, of you couldn't quit. You had no option. And I think that's such a strong and powerful message for every athlete, every coach, every parent, every student. Sometimes life throws us curveballs, and it would be so easy to give up. It'd be so easy to say, I'm not equipped. But not only did you spend 3 years in the WNBA and become a coach, you got your master's degree, and you're a couple of classes away from your PhD, correct?
Yeah, 4. I got 4 more classes. I took time off when I was coaching. My first year as a college coach, I was in school. I was a mama, and I was coaching and responsible for all these, wonderful human beings that God put under my care. And it was so hard. So I let school go, because school isn't going anywhere. Like I tell people all the time, you have to take advantage of opportunities when they are available to you. Things that are always going to be there, you will always have a chance to come back. It may be later on in life, it may be whatever. But when you have an opportunity to do something like coach college basketball, because I don't know, people just don't understand those jobs, especially for Black women, are hard to come by. So when the opportunity for you to become a head coach with no other coaching experience comes, then you take it. You put everything else, if that's your dream, you put everything else aside and you go for the opportunity. Whether you feel like you're prepared or not, you just say yes, and you learn by doing. Like that's the greatest education, is when you're thrown into the fire and you have to figure it out, right? And so I stopped school because, again, they're building schools, like schools online. Like there's a plethora, like there's an endless amount of opportunities to get education. And I focused on being a coach because that was a goal of mine. And I did it for 5 years, and I loved it while I did it. Now I'm doing other things, but now I have the opportunity to go back to school and finish my PhD. And I always tell people, it's not, some people think that success is linear, right? Like it's A, B, C. I have this plan. I'm going to do this. I'm going to go to college. I'm going to have this job and do. Life don't work like that. It just doesn't. And we submit your life, submit yourself to the process of becoming, and the challenges that you face, you just resolve that regardless of what it takes. Tears, letting people go, sacrifices, reworking some things. I'm going to get through this challenge, but you don't quit. You may not get there in the manner that you thought you would, or in the time frame that you thought you would, but the goal is to get there. It's about how you finish, not how you start. And it's not even really about the parts in between, but how do you finish? And that's the mark of a true champion, to be able to fall and get back up, and fall and get back up, and fall and get back up. Because every time you fall, you get back up stronger. You fall, you get back up wiser. You fall, you get back up, more focused. You learn so many things when you fall and get back up, but you have to fail forward. What happens to a lot of people is they fall and they stay there. And they start ruminating on, oh, I should have done this, or if this person would have been here, or if that wouldn't happen. You don't have time to focus on that. Your focus is, where am I going? Like, champions are led by vision, not by sight, not by the things that are going on around them. And so I think that if people would just resolve or resign to the fact that, come hell or high water, I'm going to get through this. I'm going to get to the other side. Because what is all the work for? Why put in all the work? Why make all the sacrifices? Why do all of those things if you don't get to the other side? Why take out the student loans? Why spend all that time, writing the papers and doing all this stuff to not finish 4 classes to finish my PhD? Do I need it? No. It's important to me because I started it and I'm going to finish it.
Yolanda, I want to take that one step further, but before I do, I want to remind our listeners, this is the Legacy After the Locker Room podcast. We're powered by the Sports Philanthropy Network, and we are blessed to be here today with 2-time WNBA champion, College Course, 4 classes away from her PhD, Miss Yolanda Moore. Yolanda, I think what you just said spoke to every listener's heart, but I want to take that one step further. And you said 2 words that I think we really need to touch on, and that's Black women. Mm-hmm. And I'm going to ask you if you have a very specific and targeted message for minority women in sports, because we know the deck is stacked even more. It's hard enough being a woman, right?
Right.
But to be a minority woman, we know the deck is stacked against their success. Do you have a specific message for minority women in sports?
I have a specific message for women in general, but specifically for minority women. It speaks to all women, but if we're going to say, because I'm a Black woman, so I only know life as a Black woman, and so I will speak to them. Yes, the deck is stacked against you, but you're not responsible for the deck. You don't have any control over that. What you do have control over is how you valuing yourself, knowing who you are, knowing what you bring to the table, and being strong and confident in that. Not being afraid to say what you bring to the table. And while they're asking you why you should hire me, I'm going to ask, why should I work for you? Why would I want to be a part of your organization? Like, how is this going to help move me along as a woman, as a coach, as a business professional? What do you have to offer me? And I think not enough of us ask that question, but because we feel like, they have what I need, or we feel like in a sense of desperation, like we don't have any power in the situation. And you have to be willing to walk away from some stuff. Like when I left coaching, I left not because it was me. It was because of me, because I needed something that I couldn't get where I was, in the space where I was. And I had to be willing to let that go. That was a nice job, a nice salary. I left and went to 0. I didn't have a job for 18 months. I went to work with the NBA in their assistant coaches program. That was unpaid, but I needed that experience to develop as a leader, to develop as just a person. I needed to see leadership at a different level. I needed to be in a space where I could learn and glean from other people, because I had been in that space before as a professional athlete. And so I know that I'm not alone, but I'll leave the money if the opportunity does not, if the situation isn't in alignment with who I am. I just don't, I'm not driven by money. And I think that's why a lot of people find themselves in situations, because they're looking at, okay, I have a family I need to provide. And I'm not saying don't provide for your family, but I'm saying at some point you have to draw a line in the sand and say, okay, these are my standards. If you don't meet my standards, I don't care how much you're paying me, I'm not going. I'm not taking it. And so we have to understand our power. We have to understand that when we walk in the room, it doesn't matter if you're meeting some quota. Yeah, the color of my skin may have gotten me in the room. The my gender, the fact that I'm a woman may have gotten me in the room. The fact that I played in the WNBA may have gotten me in the room. But guess what's going to keep me there? My character, my work ethic, my knowledge, and this just the energy that I bring to the table. That's what's going to keep me there. It don't matter how I got there. What's going to keep me there? That's what I know. And be strong and be strong in that.
Yes, and amen. Oh my gosh, I feel like I just went to church, Yolanda. And you know what? The most beautiful thing about what you just said is, yes, I targeted that as a response and a call to Black women, but I think you spoke to the soul of every human being who's ever had a boss.
Right.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. And that is why people should check out what you're doing now. And I want to talk about Yolanda Moore Global coaching and consulting, your personal development, your career development. Also, your work with Amazon doing project management, and you were afforded that opportunity because of your professional career, correct?
Yes. Amazon partnered with the NBA Retired Players Association, which is an association for both retired NBA and WNBA players. And I think Harlem Globetrotters, people who played for the Harlem Globetrotters and the NBA G League. And so they have so many programs that they have created to help former athletes transition into that next phase of their career. And one of the programs, and it's very new, is a partnership with Amazon. It's called the Amazon Athletes Program, because Amazon recognizes the leadership skills that athletes bring to the table. And they spend so much money, and corporations spend so much money training employees to develop in the areas that athletes have been training their entire lives. But there's like this unconscious bias against athletes where we're judged from the neck down based on our ability to perform. And we're not seen as intellects. We're not seen as people who can come out to, who can add value to a company, because most corporate employers can't see the correlation between what we've done as an athlete and what we can bring, those skills transferring into the corporate arena. But Amazon absolutely sees that, and they've invested in that. And when I tell you, it's been such a great experience because the cultures align so perfectly, that those leadership principles, anybody who knows anything about Amazon, they live and die by those leadership principles. And I can attest, just from being there in the short time that I've been there, that it is really real. Our bias for action. Athletes are look, let's go get it done. And being able to figure it out without a whole lot of guidance, having a high standard of excellence and integrity, being able to get results, making sure that we're having that backbone and disagreeing with things, but still committing to the overall goal. And Amazon was able to identify those skills in us and not look at the fact that, oh, you've only been in the sports arena, which is a mistake that most companies do. They're missing out on great talent because they can't see past the fact that I was an athlete, but I'm a whole person outside of that. I've done so many things outside of that, but because you're looking through a limited lens, we see people as we see ourselves, and we see the world as we see ourselves, but not really as it is. And so what Amazon has been able to do with their managers and the culture that's been created is they've taken off the lens, and they're intentional about not having that bias when it comes to recruiting talent. It's okay that you have not worked in that professional role, but let's look at the skills, because it's kind of like with basketball. You can't teach height, right? Like if we're recruiting somebody and they're 6'5", oh, you can't. With that, in that the skills that we've developed, the mental toughness, the teamwork, being able to work with people from all kinds of backgrounds and works of life, being able to overcome challenges at the drop of a dime. Those are things that you can't necessarily teach people, but athletes, it's innate, And so that's how I got to Amazon, because of, having been a professional athlete.
And Yolanda Moore Coaching and Consulting. You'll win if you don't quit. What is if you were my coach, Yolanda, what would be the number one quality that you would want to see in a person who hired you?
The number one quality that I would want a person to see who hired me is just value me as a person first. Knowing that I have value first as a person, caring about me and what's going on with me as a person first. Because if you take away the job, you take away the titles, you take away all that stuff, I'm still Yolanda. I'm still a person and I still have value. That means more to me than anything else when it comes to working with someone or having a boss or having a supervisor, which I have an amazing manager. I'm on a great team because he sees the value in people. He values the work and he values the people equally. And it's been said so many times that people don't leave bad jobs, they leave bad bosses. That's so true. That's so true. And as leaders, we have to be more empathetic and we have to understand that, yes, these people are coming to this job, but they're bringing their lives with them. They're going through things behind the scenes and you have to be empathetic to that. And everybody's not cut the same way, right? I'm really big on understanding people, their behavior style, their communication style, getting to know them on a deeper level. So now I know how to interact with them. And just because somebody snaps doesn't mean that they're mad or they're mean or what have you. They just had a moment. And being as a leader, being able to see past that and get down to, okay, what is really going on? Do you need some time off? Do you need a day? Do you need an hour? Do I need to pull back? Do I need to take you off this project and just let you work? Like things like that. That's the mark of a true leader, because without people, you don't have a company. Without people, you don't have a business.
That's an amazing message. And it was actually a great segue into my next question. Seeing behind the appearance and seeing something more. Yolanda, I ask every guest on Legacy After the Locker Room to partner with me to help the athletes who are in Special Olympics by making an autograph donation.
Absolutely.
And I'm going to ask you the same thing. Will you please partner with Legacy After the Locker Room on behalf of Sports Philanthropy Network to make an autograph donation?
It would be my absolute honor. Absolutely. Yes.
Thank you. Do you have any idea what you might autograph? I'm curious.
So I have some pictures. I have I think I have a jersey maybe. I don't know. I'll give you some items to pick from and you tell me, and we'll leave it at that.
I love it. I have great taste in autographs.
Right. Because sometimes we give people what we want them to have and they don't really want that. So I'll just ask you, what is it that you want? And then I'll give you what it is that you want, if I can.
Well, I think that's amazing. And, I'm really proud of the Movin' Mavericks. That's the wheelchair basketball team in Texas that just won the national championship. Shout out to Coach Doug Garner. And I'm only guessing that an autographed basketball would be just huge. But I just
do that. I can do that. I can do that for you.
Thank you, Yolanda. We are almost out of time. I want to give you the last minute and a half to shout out the people in your life who've made an impact for you and give us your final words of wisdom.
The people who've made an impact in my life have absolutely been my family. They've supported me when I was up, when I was down, and a lot of people don't have that. So I'm very, very grateful. I'm very want to shout out my kids because it's been a very tumultuous journey with me, this basketball journey. We've moved around a lot and they've been some soldiers. They've hung in there with me and they've seen me, come through a lot, and they've been right there cheering me on and loving me. And I wouldn't have been able to do it without them. There are so many people, coaches that I've had in my life, teammates that I've had in my life who up to and admired. And so I just former teammates, players that I've had the opportunity to coach, there are some that have come back to me and shared their successes and how I've impacted their life. So I'm just grateful to all the people those who have been there and support, those who didn't support and put me in a position where I had to figure it out on my own. I'm just grateful for that.
Thank you so much. And before we sign off, I just want to give a shout out to Milwaukee's WNBA Milwaukee Aces owner, Burnell Hooker. Burnell, all of your fans as you battle this cancer.
Oh,
Our
wow.
shout out to you and Rita. We stand with you. You're in our prayers. What a great opportunity while we have Yolanda Moore on the show to just to let you know we're lifting you up.
Oh, gosh.
Keep fighting strong, Burnell.
Oh, wow.
Yolanda, I want to say thank you so much for inspiring not only women, but I just know every athlete, every parent, every student, and every human who downloads this podcast is going to be inspired by your story. I want to say thank you so much.
Thank you so much for reaching out to me. I know that you could have asked anybody, and I don't take it lightly. I appreciate you just having me on your platform. I appreciate what you're doing. You're my hero. You're a single mom of 8. So, oh my gosh, like you're the real MVP. You're the real MVP. So thank you so much for having me. I had a blast this morning.
You're welcome. Well, that's a great way to end the show by saying this is Kayla Bradham, host of Legacy After the Locker Room, with today's guest, WNBA champion Yolanda Moore, reminding you to live your legacy. Thank you, Yolanda.
Thank you.